Well, now, here with me are reasons why employees or your employees steal from you. Do you run something and you feel like, oh, these guys are really stealing from me? And what is exactly reasons as to why they are stealing from me? And if you have something, and maybe if you do not have a business, don't feel like this video is not fit for you. One day you're going to start a venture and you'll be like, why are they stealing from me? And what exactly can you do for that it does not happen? Okay, let's get into the business, but never forget this. Okay, if you're watching me for the first time, my name is Good Joseph. Talk about money, talk about investment, anything related to money. All right, so and I do post a video each and every day. All right, that sounds amazing. All right, now if you don't want to miss any of my good videos, do this down below there next to my followers or subscribers. There is a button written subscribe. Hit that magical button and also like the video. It does not cost you anything. All right, and also tell me something on the comment section. Let's get to the business now. Here we are. See, you have a venture that you're running, be it a business or whatever it is, and you employees are really stealing from me. Like you have you ever been in a situation whereby have you ever had a business that you have to be there like all the time? Like you feel like you're now becoming like an employee of the business. Like it's really like sort of turning you to a slave because you need to be there. Have you ever been with an individual who has a business be like, hey, I can't stay here for long because I have a business somewhere, and I dare tell you, if I stay there for just 1 hour, my money is gone. People are stealing heavily right and left. Okay, so what exactly contributes to that? Let's get to it now. Point number one. Point number one is something called gap in the system. Something called gap in the system. Gap in the system. What does it mean? What do we mean by gap, and what is a system? Okay. Now, gap is, for example, let's say there is a loophole. Maybe I use the term loophole for you to understand. Gap is a loophole. Okay. Is a loophole. A loophole is that that situation that contributes you being stolen from. Why? You see, when let's say, for example, you run a hotel, or maybe you run something like a restaurant or something, or an eatery, and then in that eatery, the way people pay, it's like anybody can pick money from the client or from the customers or something of sorts. Or there is certain gap such that you do not have, let's say, something like a POS, like a point of sale. Like you do not have a laid system whereby I can tell you this what got in, this is our output, or rather this is our input, and this is the difference between the two, the suppliers and the distributor. This is what they brought, and this is what we made out of this kind of a thing. So you have a system gap somewhere where anybody can just show up somewhere and you can actually get able to get some cash out of the place. Okay, let's say, for example, you run a hardware, and that hardware, you do not have a laid system whereby maybe there is a back door somewhere whereby you find like, hey, you're dealing with a customer here in front desk, and the customer is saying this and this, and and at the same time that customer is is conniving with somebody from inside there, and they're like, hey, you know what, you can do something and then I pay you. You understand what I'm saying? I know this one may sound weird from the Western people, but it's a real thing in Africa, in such kind of a thing. So you are supposed to make sure that any good sold must pass by where I am seeing it, and I can be able to confirm, hey, that has been bought, and against that receipt that you've actually printed there. So if you have a loophole, if you have a gap in your business, if you have a gap in your investment, it definitely means that, hey, for example, personally, I grew up in a school environment where there was a school somewhere, and such kind of a thing. So I would see how the school is being ran and such kind of a thing. Then I could see, you find like, hey, for example, let's say the head teacher is so close to the parents, and the instructions of the school is that parents should pay the school fees from the banks and front their receipts. But that's not all teachers will pay the school fees from the bank. Some of them will actually hand out the cash money, and some of them will just show up into the school and hand that cash to the principal or the whoever, that person you have employed in that school of yours, and all of a sudden that guy does not even front that money to you, because obviously some people just want some cash, and then they get that money on the basis of, hey, let me just use this money, and then I'm going to pay madam, or I'm going to pay this sir at the end of the time, or something of sort. And then all of a sudden you realize that's a loophole. Okay, but if you were to seal that loophole, like saying, hey, nobody should be paid the money unless he or she is a secretary to be paid that money, nor anybody else, including the director of the, like, if you can just seal all those loopholes, so that at least you write that letter to the parents, and the parent can understand, hey, if you pay somebody else apart from the secretary or the bazaar of the school, therefore we consider that money not paid. So teachers will the parents will actually, go ahead and you get what I'm saying. Like, you must have a system that is working. working. For example, right now as we speak from the country you're watching before, and I love giving this example, there is something called KFC, and I bet almost all of you know it, okay? It's headquartered in, I don't know whether it's in Kentucky or something, but they know what exactly is happening for all the branches all over the world. Can you imagine if they do not have a system that is working? They cannot be able to, have all those franchises from different areas. Why? You cannot, because you do not have a laid system. You do not have a laid structure that is working for you. And if you dare go ahead and open those franchises, expand and expound, you're just opening a business for other people, not for you. So that is the main thing that makes people actually go ahead and do the stealing. System, again, is what I've said, the laid structure, how things are run in your business, okay? Now, we go to the next level. The next point about the reasons why people steal from your business is something called underpayment. And of course, obviously, you know this, underpayment, but it depends who you ask. If you ask the employees why they steal, they tell you underpayment. If you ask the owner of the business, they tell you a different reason, of which we're going to check about. But let's talk about underpayment. It is true, some of you guys have employees and you underpay them, okay? I understand the point here. Nobody employs you to be wealthy. Nobody employs you to be rich. But if your figure does not meet like the standard one in the market, does not meet the figures of the competitor. And I always tell people, when you want to start a business, if you want to employ somebody, it's also good to make sure that you confirm from other fellow guys who are running such a kind of a business and get to see how much they're paying their competitors. There is no way, it doesn't make any sense. You have an individual whom you have employed, and that individual say you're paying them like 10,000, and the same kind of business of yours, some even bigger than, smaller than yours, they're paying their employees like 13,000 or 14,000, and those employees are interacting. They'll be like, hey, I'm being paid 14, you're being paid 10. They feel like they're short. They'll always look for something that they can do to complement that gap of 14,000. Either two ways. If you have a very well laid system whereby they cannot be able to steal the cash, they'll steal your time, the productivity, that's for sure. You find somebody sleeping somewhere, they're supposed to be working, they're sleeping, they just want to compliment. At the back of their head, they know, hey, guess what? By virtue of you paying me 30,000, if it's 300 a day, then it means that there's 2 days somewhere that you do not pay me. Therefore, it means that, hey, I ain't gonna work those 2 days. So they make sure they stretch themselves and accommodate all those number of hours to a point whereby they get the 2 or 3 or 4 days by themselves. That's a reality. So they end up doing what we call underperforming or being underproductive in something of sort. So underpayment, it's an issue that you're supposed to really cater for. But it does not solve. If you've ever been to business, you will understand this. It does not solve the ultimate issue, does not solve the ultimate problem. You might be like, hey, even if you double the salaries of your employees in the name of, hey, I'm doing this so that they do not steal from me, does not exclude that, does not take out that probability. Even if you pay them 5, 10, 6, 17 times, 20, 100 times, if an employee is a thief, is a thief. That's a fact. So the point is this: just pay them what is the average payment in that place where you come from. And again, at the same time, have the strategies, because you're supposed to understand this. And this is the introduction of my point number 2. Number 3 is something greed. There's something called greed. Okay, now this greed, it can be applied in both parties. Now this point C, or number 3, is greed. Some of your employees, they just steal because of greed. Even if you were to triple their salaries, they're gonna steal, because if you employ somebody who has a greed, if you employ somebody who is in competition with you, see, we have people who are in competition with your business. They are your employees, but they are in competition with you. They try the best they can to sabotage you. That's a reality. And maybe if you've never been to business, you really need to understand this. You can really get yourself into a thing that you realize, hey, these employees, I thought they're supposed to function as my front man. They're supposed to function as part and parcel of this business. They are not. They're in competition with you. Some of them are with you because they want money and they're jealous of you. They will do anything and everything they can be able to bring that business down. I saw an individual who brought down a whole school and actually emptied the students and get them students by themselves. What does it tell you? People are greed. Again, the greed can also apply to you, who is the owner of the business. You're just somewhere, and because of greed, you can actually go ahead and, you don't want to invest back to your business. Therefore, you cannot have a working system. You are greedy also as an employer, because you do not want to pay people the required salary or something of sort. So all this greed from both parties, they can actually be able to be in a situation whereby it put you in a little bit of a dicey situation. So it's good to be keen, cautious, and careful so you don't get yourself in a messy situation. All right, let's go to the point number 4. The point number 4 here is where you find that people they feel entitled. Feel entitlement. Feel of what? Entitlement. Entitlement of the success of business, of the success of the business. What does this point mean? Have you ever been in a situation whereby you find somebody saying, hey, you know what, we started this business with you, it was so small, I was sacrificing my time, I was doing everything that I can, now look where you are, you've bought your first car, you've bought your second car, the third, the fourth, the business is expanding, I'm still earning the same salary, or if there is an increment, it's a little bit of an increment, I do not even feel the growth of the business and such kind of a thing. It's true. There are people who feel entitled. Like, hey, guess what? If you're buying a car, at least I should buy a motorbike. We should move in the same rate. Of which for me, at times it can make sense, and at times cannot make sense, because my success does not mean it's not a mutual exclusive thing. It's like when I get it does not mean you cannot get it. It's not like a flip of a coin. When you flip it, if it's a tail, it's a tail. You cannot have the two things. In businesses and success, you can have two ways, whereby you can and can. See, some people translate to be like, hey, I'm poor because someone is rich. So we may have some people who approach life from that lenses and that perspective. So the point is this: the moment you get your employees is actually reasoning from that point of view, that can be very, very dangerous from your business, because this is an individual who is not only operating under the entitlement, but also they have a very jealousy part of them inside of them. And these are the people who usually end up doing something bad in that specific business. So the point is this: is either you support them and you vacate them, because sometimes even firing them does not solve the problem. It's either you vacate them from the business and you support them, or just I don't know. Again, never forget this, and this is not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that you increase their salaries, do something amazing, they're gonna change, they're gonna be. Listen, you need to be very smart when it comes to businesses, okay? But the point is this: there are people who feel so, okay? And this is why I always tell people, sometimes it's good to, if you are dealing with a big institution, it is good when you invest on your employees, whereby you can bring something like somebody like financial advisor to talk to your employees, how they can manage the salary that you're paying them, show them how to invest, show them how to do those things. Since I know this man may be like, at the end of the day, they may be empowered to a point whereby they won't hear you. You can always get a new fresh blood into your business, okay? But the point is this: the moment you tend to hear somebody is arguing from this point of view, be very keen and cautious. This is an individual who is about to sabotage your business. And I always tell people, do not have that sort of a close link between you and the employees, because when you have that relationship whereby they can tell you anything, they can say anything, and they can just talk anyhowly, that can be a big of a problem. I know from the Western country that may not apply. Actually, you being closer to your employees, because there is something called integrity. Integrity in Western countries is quite there when people know, hey, if this business goes down, my food goes down. I may not be able to pay my rent. I may not be able to pay my insurance and all those kind of things. So they know I am part and parcel of this business. If the business, you may find, you may take maybe say an average employees from Amazon. They know, hey, if Amazon goes down, I do not have a job. But welcome to Africa. Welcome to Africa is whereby this is only a pest that kills the host. They say a good pest does not kill the host. Now, this is a pest that kills the host. They don't want. They just want to suck the enough blood. Even if it satisfies them for a day, tomorrow gonna cater for themselves. I mean, it's kind of a weird argument. So if you're operating a business in Africa, you really need to be very cautious and careful, because, hey, everyone is trying to the best that they can to make their lives better. And again, the aspect of integrity is not really developed in our senses and such kind of a thing. So it can be a little bit dicey situation you running a business here, but it is possible to do so, provided you have this. And that's why you find people like Indians, they are so good at businesses. Why? Because they already know the characters of Africans and how they behave, how they do the things. So they know how they know how they do their things. All right, let's go to the last point. The last point is something called poor working conditions. Poor working conditions. Poor working condition is whereby nobody is respected. You find like, yeah, you've employed some people there, you micromanage them, you don't even like, sharing, as much as I say, do not be over interactive with them. At the same time, it means that, it is good to welcome some criticism. We call them the constructive criticism, whereby you can grab something from them. They might be having something, they'll be like, hey, what, sir, I think we can do this, I think we can do that, that can be better for our businesses and such kind of a thing. So it is good to make sure that at least you provide them a good working condition. Say maybe you have some ladies who've been employed and they have young ones, you better provide at least some place where at least they can have time for their babies, or maybe there's a system that you have, maybe for gentlemen, there is maybe a leave for ladies who want to go give birth. Nowadays, I hear that even men are getting some, I don't know, maternity leave or something or sort, or maybe the environment is quite okay. And I bet you guys understand what I mean by poor working conditions. You know, you might find like a boss who micromanages people and such kind of a thing. You feel you're not respected in that business. You feel like you're not appreciated. You do not have something like what we call like congratulating people. You know, like employee of the day, employee of the month, employee of the year, and such kind of a thing. So some of these big companies usually do that. I know this one, maybe congratulating you or whatever, may not apply, you know, from a small business that you have operating there that you're trying to start. But of course, there is a way that you can actually truncate that information to you and actually use it to benefit your businesses. All right. But remember one thing, even if you cater for all these things, this is my parting shot. Even if you do all these things, remember one thing, you're dealing with a human being. You cannot. We do not have any track record of somebody who satisfied that need of a human being. So even if you do what, even if you triple their salaries, even if you have all those systems, even if they may not work 100%, but at least they're gonna minimize the losses to a point whereby you can realize a good profit of your business. That is exactly what we do. Remember what we said, the businesses are of a bit of risky, and it means that you have to accommodate that. So what we do is to compress that risk to a point whereby it is not effective. It is not affecting the operational cost of our operation of our business, even the expansion and such kind of a things. That's exactly what we aim as we grow. Anyway, don't forget, on 10th of March, I'm going to have session where we're going to have a one-on-one discussion on investments and businesses and what have you. Those are kind of the things that you're going to learn out there. And to be a member of that specific session that we're going to go for 2 days, that's the 10th and 11th, you only need to get that number of mine, and its payment is only $2,500. That's like $19 or something of sort, or $20 thereabout, and you become a member of that thing. And then we're going to have a video call where we talk one-on-one on those kind of investments. For now, it's a goodbye and see you